First Contact Sweet. The aroma of caramelizing sugar and toasting almonds wafted through the bustling kitchen of Sweet Innovations, New York's most avant-garde patisserie. Zoe Chen, head pastry chef and culinary wonderkind, stood at her workstation, a look of intense concentration etched on her face. Her hands moved with practiced precision as she piped delicate swirls of lavender-infused cream onto a bed of paper-thin pastry. At just 28, Zoe had already made a name for herself in the cutthroat world of high-end desserts. Her creations were more than mere confections. They were edible works of art that challenged perceptions and pushed the boundaries of flavor. Today, she was putting the finishing touches on her latest masterpiece, the Cosmic Dreamscape, a dessert inspired by the recent announcement of humanity's first contact with an alien civilization. As Zoe worked, the TV in the corner of the kitchen droned on, barely audible above the clatter of pots and pans. And in breaking news, the alien delegation from the Galactic Confederacy is set to arrive in New York City later this week. Officials stress that this historic visit. Zoe tuned out the newscaster's voice, focusing instead on the delicate sugar sculptures taking shape beneath her fingertips. Tiny, translucent spheres that resembled distant planets. Wisps of spun sugar that mimicked the swirling arms of galaxies. With a final flourish, she dusted the entire creation with an iridescent powder that sparkled like stardust. "All right, team," Zoe called out, straightening up and wiping her brow. "Service starts in 30 minutes. Let's make sure everything's perfect." As her staff scurried to make final preparations, Zoe allowed herself a moment of quiet pride. The Cosmic Dreamscape was more than just a dessert. It was her way of celebrating humanity's step into a larger universe. Little did she know that her culinary creation would soon play a pivotal role in shaping interstellar relations. The dinner service that night was a whirlwind of activity. Food critics, socialites, and curiosity seekers packed the restaurant, all eager to taste Zoe's alien-inspired menu. As the evening wore on, a palpable buzz of excitement filled the air. It wasn't just the innovative dishes that had people talking. Rumors were swirling that members of the alien delegation might make an unscheduled appearance. Zoe was in the middle of plating another cosmic dreamscape when her sous chef Marcus burst into the kitchen, his eyes wide with excitement. "Zoe, you're not going to believe this, but there are actual aliens in the dining room." For a moment, Zoe froze, her piping bag hovering in midair. Then, with a deep breath, she steadied herself. "Right," she said, her voice calm despite the flutter in her stomach. "Let's show them what Earth cuisine is all about." As Zoe put the finishing touches on the dessert, she couldn't help but wonder what alien taste buds would make of her creation. Would they even be able to eat it? Did they have a concept of sweetness? These questions raced through her mind as she carefully arranged the dish on a serving tray. With a nod to Marcus, Zoe pushed through the kitchen doors and into the dining room. The usual hum of conversation had been replaced by an awestruck hush. At a table near the center of the room sat three figures that were unmistakably not of this world. The aliens, for there was no other word to describe them, had vaguely humanoid forms, but their skin shimmered with an opalescent sheen that shifted colors in the light. Their eyes, large and multifaceted like those of insects, darted around the room, taking in every detail. As Zoe approached, she noticed delicate frills along their necks that seemed to vibrate with each breath. Taking a deep breath, Zoe stepped up to the table. "Good evening," she said, surprised at how steady her voice sounded. "I'm Zoe Chen, head chef here at Sweet Innovations. I hope you're enjoying your meals so far." One of the aliens turned to her, its frills fluttering in what Zoe hoped was a sign of interest rather than aggression. When it spoke, the words seemed to form directly in her mind, bypassing her ears entirely. "Greetings, Zoe Chen. We are most intrigued by the sensory experiences your establishment offers. We have been informed that you have prepared a special dessert. Is that the correct term?" Zoe nodded, setting the tray down on the table. "Yes, that's right. This is a dessert I've created called the Cosmic Dreamscape. It's inspired by our recent contact with your civilization." As she began to explain the components of the dish, Zoe noticed the aliens leaning in, their multifaceted eyes focused intently on the swirling patterns of the dessert. Their frills vibrated rapidly, and Zoe got the distinct impression that they were communicating with each other on a level she couldn't perceive. Finally, one of the aliens reached out a slender six-fingered hand and delicately picked up a spoon. Zoe held her breath as it scooped up a small portion of the dessert and brought it to its mouth, or what Zoe assumed was its mouth. What happened next would change the course of Zoe's life forever. The moment the dessert touched the alien's lips, its entire body seemed to light up from within. Its opalescent skin flashed through a rapid sequence of colors, and its frills extended to their full length, quivering like leaves in a strong breeze. The other two aliens reacted with obvious alarm, their own frills flaring out as they reached for their companion. Zoe took a step back, her heart pounding. Had she just poisoned an alien diplomat? Was this the start of an interstellar incident? But then, just as suddenly as it had begun, the light show subsided. The alien that had tasted the dessert turned to Zoe, its multifaceted eyes somehow conveying a sense of wonder. Zoe Chen, it communicated directly into her mind. This creation of yours, it has awakened sensations we did not know were possible. The interplay of flavors, textures, and temperatures, it is like experiencing the birth of a star in one's mouth. Relief washed over Zoe, quickly followed by a surge of pride. She had not only created dessert that aliens could eat, but one that they seemed to genuinely enjoy. As the other two aliens eagerly reached for their own spoons, Zoe couldn't help but smile. What she didn't realize at that moment was that her cosmic dreamscape had done more than just please the alien palate. It had opened up new neural pathways in their brains, allowing them to experience taste in a way they never had before. This unexpected side effect would have far-reaching consequences for both human and alien societies. As news of the alien delegation's reaction to Zoe's dessert spread, she found herself thrust into the spotlight. Overnight, she went from being a rising star in the culinary world to a key figure in human-alien relations. Government officials and alien diplomats alike sought her expertise, hoping to use her culinary skills to bridge the gap between their species. In the weeks that followed, Zoe's life became a whirlwind of meetings, interviews, and experimental cooking sessions. She worked tirelessly to create new dishes that could be enjoyed by both humans and aliens, each one a carefully crafted blend of Earth ingredients and exotic extraterrestrial flavors. It was during one of these marathon cooking sessions that Zoe received an unexpected visitor. As she was elbow-deep in a mixture that combined earthen chocolate with a bioluminescent fungus from the alien homeworld, a tall, distinguished-looking man in a crisp suit entered her kitchen. "Miss Chen," he said, his voice carrying an air of authority. "I'm Director Collins from the newly formed Bureau of Extraterrestrial Affairs. I was hoping we could have a word." Zoe looked up, blowing a stray strand of hair out of her face. "Of course, Director. What can I do for you?" Collins glanced around the kitchen, taking in the strange ingredients and experimental equipment. "Miss Chen, your work has not gone unnoticed. The impact your culinary creations have had on our relations with the Galactic Confederacy is, quite frankly, unprecedented. We believe you may be the key to strengthening our interstellar ties." Zoe's eyebrows shot up. "Me? I'm just a chef director. Surely there are diplomats or scientists better suited for that kind of role." Collins shook his head, a small smile playing at the corners of his mouth. "Sometimes, Miss Chen, the most effective diplomacy happens not across a negotiating table, but across a dinner table. We'd like to offer you a unique opportunity." As Collins laid out the details of the proposal, Zoe felt a mix of excitement and trepidation. The Bureau wanted to send her to the alien homeworld as part of a cultural exchange program. She would have the chance to study alien cuisine firsthand, to experiment with ingredients beyond her wildest dreams, and to continue her work in fostering understanding between their species. It was the opportunity of a lifetime, but it also meant leaving behind everything she knew. Her restaurant, her family, her entire world, all to venture into the unknown depths of space. As Collins finished his pitch, he fixed Zoe with a serious look. "I won't sugarcoat it, Miss Chen. This mission will be challenging, potentially dangerous, and there's no guarantee of success. But the potential benefits to humanity are immeasurable. What do you say?" Zoe looked down at her hands, still covered in the strange, glowing mixture she'd been working on. She thought about the sense of wonder she felt when she first saw the aliens, the thrill of creating something that could transcend the boundaries between species. She thought about the infinite possibilities that awaited her among the stars. Taking a deep breath, Zoe met Colin's gaze. "When do we leave?" And so, with a mixture of trepidation and excitement, Zoe Chen prepared to embark on the greatest adventure of her life. Little did she know that her culinary skills would soon be put to the test in ways she could never have imagined, as she found herself at the center of a cosmic conflict where the fate of both humanity and their new alien allies hung in the balance. As Zoe packed her bags, carefully selecting which kitchen tools to bring along, she couldn't help but marvel at how quickly her life had changed. Just weeks ago, her biggest concern had been perfecting the texture of her soufflés. Now, she was about to become one of the first humans to set foot on an alien world. The day of departure arrived all too soon. Zoe stood on the launch pad, her heart pounding as she gazed up at the sleek, otherworldly ship that would be her home for the journey. As she took her first steps up the boarding ramp, she cast one last look back at the Earth, the only home she'd ever known. With a mix of determination and nervous excitement, she stepped into the ship, ready to face whatever the universe had in store for her. Little did Zoe know that her culinary adventures were about to become the stuff of legend, a tale of how one chef's passion for food would shape the destiny of two civilizations and change the face of the galaxy forever. A taste of the stars. Zoe's stomach lurched as the alien spacecraft, affectionately nicknamed the Cosmic Whisk by her fellow human crew members, dropped out of faster-than-light travel. Through the viewscreen, she caught her first glimpse of Sonora, the homeworld of the Galactic Confederacy. The planet was a swirling mass of vibrant purples and greens, unlike anything she had ever seen. "Breathtaking, isn't it?" Captain Elara, the Xeneron liaison, remarked. Her iridescent skin flickered with patterns that Zoe was beginning to recognize as excitement. "It's incredible," Zoe breathed, her chef's mind already racing with the possibilities. What kind of ingredients would a world like this produce? As they began their descent, Elara briefed Zoe on what to expect. "Remember, your olfactory and gustatory senses may be overwhelmed at first. Sonora's atmosphere contains trace elements that can enhance sensory perception. It's part of why your cosmic dreamscape had such a profound effect on us." Zoe nodded, her excitement tinged with a hint of apprehension. She'd trained for months, studying Xeneron biology and culture, but nothing could fully prepare her for the reality of an alien world. The moment the ship's doors opened, Zoe was hit with a cacophony of scents and sensations. The air itself seemed to taste of exotic spices and unfamiliar fruits. She stumbled slightly, steadying herself against the doorframe. "Easy there, chef," Captain Elara said, placing a steadying hand on Zoe's shoulder. "Take shallow breaths at first. Your system needs time to adjust." As they made their way through the spaceport, Zoe couldn't help but gawk at her surroundings. The architecture was organic, buildings seeming to grow out of the ground like massive crystalline plants. Xenerons of all shapes and sizes bustled about, their skin shimmering with bioluminescent patterns. Their first stop was the Intergalactic Culinary Institute, a sprawling complex that looked more like a futuristic botanical garden than a school. Here, Zoe would spend the next few months learning about Xeneron cuisine and teaching her own techniques to eager alien students. "Welcome, Chef Chen," a tall, willowy Xeneron greeted them at the entrance. "I am Dean Sixlith. We are most enthused to begin our gastronomic exchange." As Zoe was led to her quarters, her mind whirled with the possibilities and challenges ahead. How would she adapt her cooking techniques to alien ingredients? Could she create dishes that appealed to both human and Xeneron palates? The next few weeks were a blur of new experiences and culinary experiments. Zoe found herself working with ingredients that defied her earthly understanding of food. There were fruits that changed flavor depending on the emotions of the person eating them, vegetables that pulsated with their own internal rhythms, and spices that could alter one's perception of time. One particularly memorable incident occurred during a class on molecular gastronomy. Zoe was demonstrating a technique for creating flavored spheres, little bubbles of liquid encased in a thin gel membrane. She had adapted the process to work with a Zenaron fruit called luminberry, which glowed with an inner light. As she carefully dropped the mixture into a bath of calcium chloride, something unexpected happened. The spheres began to levitate, floating up towards the ceiling of the classroom. Fascinating, Dean Zixliffe exclaimed, his frills quivering with excitement. The interaction between the luminberry enzymes and the calcium ions has created a localized anti-gravity effect. Zoe stared in amazement as her culinary creation drifted above their heads, twinkling like edible stars. It was moments like these that reminded her just how far from home she truly was. But for all the wonders she was experiencing, Zoe found herself struggling. Many of her tried and true techniques simply didn't work with Zenaron ingredients. Dishes that would have been simple on Earth became complex puzzles of alien chemistry and physics. After a particularly frustrating day, where she had managed to accidentally create a sentient soufflé, which had to be talked down from the ceiling, Zoe found herself wandering the bioluminescent gardens of the Institute, seeking solace and inspiration. As she rounded a corner, she quite literally bumped into another figure, a Zenaron she recognized as Kazin, one of the maintenance staff. "Oh, my apologies, Chef Chen," Kazin said, his skin flickering with embarrassment. "I was lost in thought, tending to the whisper willows." Zoe looked up at the strange, ethereal plants Kazin had been pruning. They seemed to sing softly as their tendrils swayed in a non-existent breeze. "No worries, Kazin," Zoe replied with a smile. "Actually, I'm glad I ran into you. I've been meaning to ask, how do you get these gardens to thrive? The ecosystem here is so different from anything on Earth." Kazin's frills perked up, clearly pleased by her interest. "It's all about harmony, Chef Chen. Each plant, each microorganism, plays a role in the greater symphony of life. My job is simply to listen and make subtle adjustments." As Kazin began to explain the intricate relationships between the various plant species, something clicked in Zoe's mind. She had been approaching Zenaron cuisine all wrong, trying to force Earth techniques onto alien ingredients. Instead, she needed to understand the harmony of flavors, the ecosystem of taste that made Zenaron food unique. Excited by this revelation, Zoe rushed back to her kitchen lab, ideas bubbling in her mind like a perfectly simmering stock. Over the next few days, she threw herself into a new project, combining her earthborn creativity with her growing understanding of Zenaron gastronomy. The result was a dish she called Harmony of Worlds, a multi-course experience that took diners on a journey through flavors both familiar and alien. Earth-inspired techniques were used to highlight the unique properties of Zenaron ingredients, while Zenaron cooking methods brought out unexpected nuances in terrestrial foods. The centerpiece of the meal was a dessert that paid homage to her original cosmic dreamscape, while incorporating all she had learned on Sonora. It featured levitating luminberry spheres, a cake made from emotion-sensitive fruits that changed color and flavor based on the diner's mood, and a sauce that seemed to defy the laws of physics, flowing upwards instead of down. When Zoe presented her creation to the Institute's board of directors, the reaction was beyond anything she could have imagined. The Xenarans were enraptured, their skin pulsing with colors Zoe had never seen before. Even the human representatives were moved to tears by the harmonious blend of flavors and sensations. As the last plates were cleared away, Dean Zixliffe approached Zoe, his frills quivering with what she now recognized as deep emotion. "Chef Chen," he said, his telepathic voice resonating with awe, "what you have created here is more than just a meal. It is a bridge between our worlds, a testament to the potential of our cooperation. The Galactic Confederacy will be most pleased with this development." Zoe felt a surge of pride and accomplishment. She had done it, She had found a way to blend the best of both worlds to create something truly unique in the universe. But even as she basked in the glow of her success, a nagging worry tugged at the back of her mind. The Xenaran reaction to her food seemed almost too strong, too emotional, and there were whispers among the kitchen staff of certain factions who viewed her innovations with suspicion rather than celebration. Little did Zoe know that her culinary breakthrough was about to catapult her into the center of a galactic controversy, one that would test her skills, her courage, and her understanding of the very nature of taste itself. As news of her harmony of worlds spread across Sonora and beyond, forces were aligning that would soon threaten not just her mission, but the delicate peace between Earth and the Galactic Confederacy. The stage was set for a cosmic conflict where the fate of two civilizations would rest not on weapons or treaties, but on the power of food to unite or divide. And Zoe Chen, a chef who had once only dreamed of the stars, would find herself the unexpected hero in a battle for the very future of interstellar relations. As she retired to her quarters that night, mind buzzing with new ideas and possibilities, Zoe could never have guessed that her greatest challenge and her greatest adventure was yet to come. The recipe for disaster. Zoe's harmony of worlds had become the talk of the galaxy. Dignitaries from across the Galactic Confederacy clamored for a taste of her revolutionary cuisine. Even the notoriously reclusive Nebula nomads, a species of spacefaring beings who rarely interacted with planetary civilizations, had requested a sample. But with great success came great scrutiny. As Zoe prepared for the biggest event of her interstellar career, a diplomatic dinner hosting representatives from 12 different species, she couldn't shake the feeling that something was amiss. Chef Chen, a moment of your time. The voice belonged to Vexler, a Xenaran sous chef who had been assigned to assist Zoe. His skin rippled with patterns that Zoe had learned to associate with anxiety. "What's wrong, Vexler?" Zoe asked, setting down the anti-gravity whisk she'd been using to prepare a cloud-like meringue. Vexler's frills quivered as he leaned in close. "I've overheard whispers, chef. There are those who believe your cuisine is too influential. They fear it may alter the balance of power within the Confederacy." Zoe frowned. "Alter the balance of power? It's just food, Vexler." "Is it though?" Vexler's multifaceted eyes seemed to bore into her. "Your dishes don't just nourish, Chef Chen. They create understanding, empathy. Some say they can even influence thoughts." Before Zoe could respond, an alarm blared throughout the kitchen. Red lights pulsed, and an automated voice echoed through the chamber. "Security breach detected. Lockdown initiated." Chaos erupted as staff rushed to secure ingredients and equipment. Zoe's mind raced. The diplomatic dinner was in less than 3 hours. Whatever was happening, she couldn't let it derail this crucial event. "Vexler, start moving the sensitive ingredients to the backup kitchen," Zoe commanded, slipping easily into crisis mode. "I'll check the main storage units." As Zoe made her way through the labyrinthine kitchen complex, she noticed something odd. The bioluminescent fungi they used for ambient lighting were pulsing in an unusual pattern, almost as if they were trying to communicate. Trusting her instincts, Zoe followed the pulsing lights. They led her to a little-used storage room where she found an unconscious Xenaran security guard and an open container of crescendo crystals, a rare spice known for its potent psychoactive effects. "Oh no," Zoe breathed, realizing the implications. Someone had tampered with the ingredients for the diplomatic dinner. If she hadn't noticed the fungi's warning, the sabotage might have gone undetected. Just then, Zoe's communicator crackled to life. "Chef Chen." It was Captain Elara, her voice tight with urgency. "We've got a situation in the main dining hall. The delegates, they're exhibiting strange symptoms. We need your expertise immediately." Zoe's heart raced as she sprinted towards the dining hall, her mind whirling with possibilities. As she burst through the doors, she was met with a scene of utter chaos. Delegates from a dozen different species were scattered around the room, each displaying bizarre behaviors. The Mercurian ambassador, normally a being of living metal, had melted into a puddle on the floor. A group of verdant voidwalkers, usually stoic plant-based entities, were giggling uncontrollably, their leaves changing colors like a hallucinogenic light show. In the center of it all stood Dean Sixlith, his skin flashing warning patterns as he tried to maintain order. "Chef Chen," he called out upon seeing her. "Thank the cosmic currents you're here. We believe the appetizers were contaminated with some kind of psychotropic compound." Zoe's mind raced. The crescendo crystals in the storage room, they must have been planted there as a decoy. The real sabotage had already taken place. "I need access to your ingredient molecular scanner," Zoe said, her voice steady despite the panic threatening to overwhelm her. "And bring me samples of everything that was served." As Zixbith rushed to fulfill her requests, Zoe turned to Captain Elara. "We need to quarantine this room. Whatever they've been dosed with could be contagious." For the next hour, Zoe worked feverishly, analyzing the contaminated food and cross-referencing it with her vast knowledge of both Earth and Xenoran biochemistry. What she discovered chilled her to the bone. The saboteurs hadn't just used a simple psychotropic compound. They had created a sophisticated bioweapon that targeted the pleasure centers of multiple species' brains. It was designed to create a state of euphoric suggestibility, perfect for manipulating interstellar politics. But the worst was yet to come. As Zoe dug deeper into the compound's structure, she realized it had been engineered with traces of her own culinary creations. Someone had taken her recipes for interspecies harmony and twisted them into a tool for cosmic conflict. "Chef Chen," Captain Elara's voice was grim. "We've received a transmission. The group responsible for this attack is demanding that Earth immediately withdraw from the Galactic Confederacy. If we don't comply, they threaten to release this compound on a massive scale." Zoe's mind raced. She couldn't let her life's work be used as a weapon. There had to be a way to counteract the compound, to use her knowledge of flavors and biochemistry to save not just this dinner, but potentially the entire galaxy. "I need access to the ship's quantum synthesizer," Zoe said, a plan already forming in her mind. "And I'm going to need ingredients. Lots of ingredients." What followed was the most intense cooking session of Zoe's life. Using her unparalleled understanding of cross-species cuisine, she worked to create a dish that would not only counteract the psychotropic effects of the sabotage food, but also strengthen the diplomatic bonds between the affected species. As she cooked, Zoe realized that this was what her entire journey had been leading up to. Every experiment, every failure, every breakthrough, it had all prepared her for this moment. The final dish was a masterpiece of culinary science, a swirling galaxy of flavors, each carefully calibrated to interact with the unique biochemistry of the various delegates. At its core was an essence distilled from the whisper willows in the Institute's garden, a potent symbol of harmony and interconnectedness. As the affected delegates consumed Zoe's creation, the change was almost immediate. The Mercurian ambassador resolidified, the verdant voidwalkers regained their composure, and a sense of calm settled over the room. But Zoe knew her work wasn't done. The threat of a larger attack still loomed, and somewhere out there were people willing to use her culinary innovations as weapons. She had neutralized the immediate danger, but a greater challenge lay ahead. As the delegates slowly recovered, showering her with gratitude and praise, Zoe made a decision. She couldn't stay cloistered in the safety of the Culinary Institute any longer. If she wanted to protect her work and promote true harmony between species, she would need to venture out into the galaxy and confront the forces threatening to twist her culinary vision into a recipe for disaster. "Captain Elara," Zoe said, her voice filled with determination, "I'm going to need a ship." The captain raised an eyebrow, her skin shimmering with a mix of concern and admiration. "And where exactly do you plan to go, Chef Chen?" Zoe looked out at the stars visible through the dining hall's massive windows, her eyes blazing with purpose. "Wherever this conspiracy leads, it's time to show the galaxy the true power of Earth cuisine." As news of the averted disaster spread throughout the Confederacy, Zoe Chen, once just a promising chef from New York, found herself transformed into a culinary crusader, embarking on a mission to save the galaxy one dish at a time. Little did she know that her journey would take her to the farthest reaches of known space, where she would face challenges that would test not just her skills as a chef, but her very understanding of life, consciousness, and the fundamental ingredients of the universe itself. The stars beckoned, and Zhou Chen, armed with her whisk and an unshakable belief in the unifying power of food, was ready to answer their call. The greatest adventure of her life, and quite possibly the fate of the entire galactic confederacy, was about to begin. Whisking up a solution, the sleek starship Culinary Comet hummed softly as it cruised through the kaleidoscopic walls of hyperspace. In the vessel's state-of-the-art galley, Zhou Chen stood before a holographic display, her brow furrowed in concentration. Surrounding her was an eclectic crew: Captain Elara, the steadfast Xenaran, Dr. Quark, a quantum physicist with a penchant for molecular astronomy, and Blip, a gelatinous being from the methane seas of Titan who had an uncanny ability to analyze and replicate any flavor in the universe. "All right, team," Zhou said, manipulating the 3D model of a complex molecule floating before her. "We know the culinary terrorists calling themselves the Bitter Tasters have bases scattered throughout the Andromeda galaxy. Our job is to infiltrate their operation and find a way to neutralize their weaponized cuisine before they can destabilize the entire galactic confederacy." "But how do we find them?" Blip burbled, its translucent body rippling with curiosity. "The Andromeda galaxy is vast, and our intel is sparse." Zhou's eyes gleamed with determination. "We follow the ingredients. The bioweapon they used at the diplomatic dinner contained traces of zestberries from the floating gardens of Eris Prime. It's a rare delicacy, and I bet they'll need more for their next big move." Captain Elara's frills flickered with approval. "Excellent deduction, chef. I'll set a course for Eris Prime immediately." As the Culinary Comet approached the gossamer-thin atmosphere of Eris Prime, Zhou couldn't help but gasp in wonder. The entire planet was covered in massive, floating islands, each one a lush garden teeming with exotic fruits and vegetables. "Remember," Dr. Quark cautioned as they prepared to disembark, "the gravity here is highly variable. One wrong step and you could find yourself floating off into the stratosphere." Zhou nodded, double-checking the grav boots she'd been issued. With a deep breath, she stepped out onto the springy surface of the nearest floating island. The air was thick with the scent of 1,000 unknown fruits, making her head spin with culinary possibilities. As they made their way through the floating orchards, Zhou's trained eye spotted something unusual. "Look there," she whispered, pointing to a cluster of trees heavy with luminous, spiral-shaped fruit. "Those zestberries have been genetically modified. They're emitting a frequency that's attracting swarms of nectarflies." Dr. Quark scanned the fruit with his quantum tricorder. "Fascinating. The genetic alterations have increased the berry's psychoactive properties tenfold. One bite of these could send an entire species into a hallucinogenic frenzy." Suddenly, a shrill alarm pierced the air. "Intruder alert, secure the crop." The voice seemed to come from the trees themselves. "It's an ambush," Captain Elara shouted, drawing her phaser. "The Bitter Tasters must have been expecting us." Chaos erupted as masked figures emerged from hidden passages within the floating islands. Energy beams crisscrossed the air, and the variable gravity sent combatants bouncing wildly across the landscape. In the midst of the fray, Zhou's culinary instincts kicked into overdrive. She spotted a cluster of plump, pressurized fruits nearby, a species she recognized from her studies at the Intergalactic Culinary Institute. "Everyone, cover your noses," she yelled, before hurling her chef's knife at the delicate skin of the fruit. It burst with a thunderous pop, releasing a cloud of potent spores that sent the bitter taster agents into a sneezing frenzy. Taking advantage of the confusion, Zhou and her team managed to fight their way back to the Culinary Comet. As they lifted off, narrowly escaping a barrage of energy blasts, Zoe clutched a sample of the modified zestberries she'd managed to snag. "We may not have shut down their operation," she said, her voice tight with determination. "But with this sample, we can start working on a counter-agent to their bioweapon." Over the next few weeks, the culinary comet zipped across the galaxy, always one step behind the bitter tasters. On the neon-drenched planet of Luminara, Zoe infiltrated an underground supper club, using her unparalleled palate to identify a bitter taster agent by the unique blend of spices in his cybernetic implants. In the crystalline caves of Frostheim, she engaged in a high-stakes bake-off against a master patissier suspected of supplying the terrorists with psychoactive fondant. Each encounter provided new clues, new ingredients, and new challenges. Zoe's culinary skills were pushed to their limits as she crafted dishes that could counter mind-control spices, disable security systems with perfectly timed soufflés, and even communicate with silicon-based life forms through intricately carved radishes. But the bitter tasters always seemed to be one step ahead, their ultimate plans still shrouded in mystery. The breakthrough came in the most unlikely of places, a dingy space truck stop on the outskirts of the Horsehead Nebula. As Zoe sat at the bar, nursing a glass of hyper-fermented kvass, her enhanced olfactory senses picked up a familiar scent. "Impossible," she muttered, her eyes widening in recognition. It was the unmistakable aroma of her original cosmic dreamscape dessert, the very dish that had started her on this wild journey across the stars. Trusting her instincts, Zoe followed the scent to a shadowy corner of the truck stop. There, hunched over a glowing datapad, sat a figure she recognized immediately: Vexilor, her former sous chef from the Xenoran Culinary Institute. "You!" Zoe exclaimed, her hand instinctively reaching for the laser whisk holstered at her hip. "You're working with the bitter tasters." Vexilor's frills drooped with shame as he looked up at her. "Chef Chen, I can explain. The bitter tasters, they're not what you think. We're not terrorists, we're trying to save the galaxy." Over the next hour, Vexilor laid out a conspiracy that made Zoe's head spin. The Galactic Confederacy, he claimed, was secretly controlled by a race of hyper-intelligent fungal beings called the mycelial mind. These creatures had been subtly influencing galactic politics for eons, using spores that affected the decision-making processes of other sentient species. "Your cosmic dreamscape," Vexilor explained, his voice hushed. "It was the first dish in galactic history that could counteract the mycelial mind's influence. That's why they're so afraid of your cooking, Chef Chen. You have the power to free the galaxy from their control." Zoe sat back, her mind reeling from the implications. If what Vexilor was saying was true, then everything she thought she knew about her mission, about the Galactic Confederacy, even about her own role in the universe, was wrong. But one thing was clear: the fate of the galaxy now rested in her hands, or more precisely in her whisk. "All right, Vexilor," Zoe said, a plan already forming in her mind. "You've stirred up quite a cosmic consummate here. Now let's see if we can bring it to a boil. Tell me everything you know about the mycelial mind's weaknesses." As Vexilor began to detail the fungal overlord's susceptibility to certain rare spices and cooking techniques, Zoe realized that her greatest challenge was yet to come. She would need to create a dish so powerful, so mind-expandingly delicious, that it could break the psychic stranglehold of an ancient fungal intelligence on the entire galaxy. The stakes had never been higher, the ingredients never more exotic, and the potential disaster never more dire. But as she felt the familiar fire of culinary inspiration ignite within her, Zoe Chen knew one thing for certain: this would be the most important meal she had ever prepared. With a galaxy to save and a cosmic conspiracy to unravel, Zoe and her unlikely new ally set off towards the heart of the Galactic Confederacy. Their mission: to organize the greatest cooking show the universe had ever seen, one that would decide the fate of every sentient being in the cosmos. As the culinary comet streaked across the star-studded expanse, Zoe allowed herself a small smile. She had come to the stars to expand her culinary horizons, but now she was about to serve up a dish of freedom to the entire galaxy. The universe, it seemed, had not seen anything yet. A universe united by flavor. The grand amphitheater of the Galactic Confederacy's capital world, Nexus Prime, buzzed with an energy unlike anything seen in its million-year history. Beings from every corner of the known universe packed the swirling, gravity-defying stands. Holographic displays flickered to life on countless worlds, broadcasting the event to trillions of viewers across the cosmos. At the center of it all stood Zhou Chen, Earth's unlikely culinary ambassador, facing off against Chef Silith Nor, the mycelial mind's most gifted gastronomic puppet. This was more than a cooking competition. It was a battle for the very soul of the galaxy. Beings of the Galactic Confederacy, boomed the voice of the omniscient announcer, a hive-mind eye that served as the competition's impartial judge. Welcome to the first-ever Cosmic Cuisine Showdown. Today's challenge: create a dish that embodies the very essence of universal harmony. You have 4 hours. May the best chef win, and possibly decide the fate of all sentient life as we know it. No pressure. Begin. Zhou took a deep breath, centering herself as she had done countless times in kitchens across the galaxy. But this was different. The ingredients before her defied the laws of physics as she knew them. Quantum-entangled herbs that existed in 2 places at once. Fruits that aged backwards in time. Spices mined from the event horizons of black holes. As she began to cook, Zhou felt a strange sensation. The mycelial mind, sensing the threat she posed, was attempting to infiltrate her consciousness. Tendrils of fungal thought tried to cloud her judgment, to make her doubt her culinary instincts. But Zhou had prepared for this. She began to hum an ancient earth melody, a simple cooking song her grandmother had taught her. The tune, so foreign into the mycelial mind, created a psychic barrier, keeping her thoughts clear and focused. Across the kitchen stadium, Chef Silith Nor worked with terrifying efficiency. His numerous appendages blurred as he manipulated ingredients on a molecular level, creating flavors that could alter the very fabric of reality. Looks like Chef Silith Nor is preparing his signature dish. Supernova soufflé with a side of quantum quiche. The announcer's voice rang out. A dish so densely packed with flavor, it's said to create a localized gustatory singularity. Zhou refused to be intimidated. She reached for her secret weapon, a vial of hyper-condensed umami extract, distilled from the most savory foods across 1,000 worlds. With precision born from years of practice, she began to construct her dish. Layer by layer, molecule by molecule, Zhou built a culinary masterpiece that was as much a scientific breakthrough as it was a work of art. She combined flavors that should have been impossible, creating harmonies of taste that resonated on a subatomic level. "Great galaxies," exclaimed the announcer. Chef Chen appears to be constructing some kind of, is that a flavor-based neural network? This is unprecedented. As the final seconds ticked away, Zhou made a bold decision. She reached out with her mind, opening herself to the psychic network that connected all beings in the arena. With the last sprinkle of an iridescent garnish made from pulverized nebula dust, she poured every ounce of her passion, her journey, her love for the unifying power of food into the dish. "Time's up, utensils down." The announcer's voice reverberated through the arena. "Chefs, present your dishes for judgment." The next moments were a blur. Zhou watched as beings of every conceivable species tasted her creation. She saw eyes widen, tentacles quiver, and bioluminescent patterns flare with intense emotion. Suddenly, a psychic shockwave rippled through the arena. Zhou's dish hadn't just impressed the judges, it had created a moment of perfect, galaxy-spanning empathy. Every being who tasted it instantly understood the perspectives, the hopes, and the fears of every other species. The mycelial mind's control began to crumble as waves of empathy and understanding washed over the collective consciousness of the Galactic Confederacy. Chef Silith Nor's fungal form began to dissolve, revealing the countless individual minds that had been trapped within. Unbelievable. The announcer's voice crackled with excitement. In an unprecedented turn of events, Chef Chen's dish has not only won the competition, but appears to have fundamentally altered the psychic landscape of the entire galaxy. As the realization of what she had accomplished washed over her, Zoe felt a tug on her chef's coat. She looked down to see Blip, her gelatinous crewmate, vibrating with excitement. "Chef Chen," Blip burbled, "the Galactic Council is requesting your presence. They're saying something about a new position, Supreme Culinary Peacekeeper of the United Galaxies." Zoe laughed, the sound bubbling up from a place of pure joy and disbelief. She had come to the stars to expand her culinary horizons, and ended up expanding the very consciousness of the universe itself. As she made her way to meet the council, surrounded by cheering beings from across the cosmos, Zoe couldn't help but smile. The galaxy was entering a new age of understanding and cooperation, and at the heart of it all was the simple, universal truth she had always believed in: that there is no barrier that cannot be broken, no conflict that cannot be resolved, when people come together to share a meal. The stars sparkled overhead, but to Zoe, they no longer seemed distant or alien. They were simply ingredients in the grand, cosmic recipe of existence, a recipe she was now helping to write, one dish at a time. As news of Zoe's triumph spread across the galaxy, a new era of culinary diplomacy dawned. Cooking became the universal language of peace, with Zoe Chen leading the charge as the galaxy's premier gastronomic ambassador. Intergalactic cooking shows became the most watched programs across the cosmos. Fusion restaurants blending cuisines from dozens of worlds popped up on every space station and planetary outpost. The Galactic Confederacy's most tense negotiations were now conducted over elaborate, multi-course meals designed to foster empathy and understanding. And at the heart of it all was Zoe Chen, the chef from Earth who had shown the universe the true power of food. Her adventures continued, exploring the farthest reaches of space in search of new ingredients, new techniques, and new ways to bring the galaxy together, one bite at a time. The universe, it seemed, had developed quite an appetite for harmony, and Zoe Chen was more than happy to keep cooking.